There are two people in the world you're supposed to be able to trust unconditionally, your partner and your brother. I lost both of them on the same day. Not to some tragic accident, but to a choice. A choice they made together, a secret they kept that completely detonated my reality. This isn't really a story about revenge, at least not in the way you might think. It's about what happens after the smoke clears, when you're left standing in the rubble of your own life and you have to figure out how to rebuild. Not the life you had, but a new one. A stronger one. This is how I survived. Before my world ended, life was good. Simple. My life with Sarah wasn't some whirlwind movie romance, it was better because it was real. We built a life over a decade, full of inside jokes, shared dreams, and that quiet comfort you feel when you know someone always has your back. We had a home, not just a house. We had our rituals, pizza on Fridays, lazy Sunday mornings with newspapers scattered all over the bed, the yearly argument about which Christmas movie is really the best. It was a life painted in the warm, comfortable colors of contentment. And then there was my brother, Mark. He wasn't just my brother, he was my best friend. From building forts in the backyard as kids to getting through our awkward teenage years, he was my constant. Mark was the best man at my wedding. He was the first person I called when I got a promotion. He knew my stories before I even had to tell them. When he and his wife divorced a couple of years back, Sarah and I were his safe harbor. Our home became his. We helped him pack up his old life, had him over for dinner more times than I can count, and just kept telling him he wasn't alone. The three of us became this tight-knit team, this unbreakable triangle of support. Or so I thought. That belief, that absolute trust in the two most important people in my life, was the foundation of everything. And I never, not for a second, saw the crack that was about to bring it all tumbling down. Finding out wasn't a single, dramatic moment. It was worse. It was this slow, creeping dread that started with little things. A phone call that suddenly ended when I walked into the room. A look between them that held on for just a second too long. A story about where they were that didn't quite line up. At first, I just pushed it aside. My brain couldn't, or wouldn't, connect the dots. The very idea was so monstrous, so completely outside the realm of what's possible, that it felt like I was the one going crazy. The truth finally came out on a Tuesday. I'd come home early from a work trip to surprise Sarah. I walked in the door, and the house was just silent. Heavy. I found them. Not in our bed, but the guilt hanging in the air was just as damning. The look on their faces was a physical thing. In that one, silent moment, the woman I'd built my life with and the man I'd shared my life with became complete strangers. I didn't yell. I didn't scream. I just remember feeling this profound sense of detachment, like I was watching a movie of someone else's life. The pain was so huge it was silent. It was a pressure behind my eyes, a total hollowness in my chest. I've learned since that the shock of a betrayal like this can be a real trauma, a condition some people call post-infidelity stress disorder. My mind just couldn't process the two betrayals at once. My marriage was over, and my deepest family bond was severed in the same instant. My entire reality had been a lie, and the architects of that lie were the two people I loved the most. The floor didn't just drop out from under me, I realized there was never a floor to begin with. The days that followed are just a blur of raw pain. At first, all I felt was a blinding anger. Not just at them, but at myself for being so stupidly blind. At my family who just wanted to keep the peace. At the whole world for being so cruel. I know now that rage like that is usually just a cover for the deeper feelings of grief and fear. The betrayal felt like it was everywhere. Family gatherings turned into a minefield of awkward glances and whispered comments. Some relatives actually tried to mediate, to find a middle ground where there absolutely was no middle ground. Their attempts to make it all seem normal felt like a second betrayal, like they were minimizing the complete devastation of what happened. That was my turning point. I realized that to heal, I had to get out of their world of denial. My first real step towards healing was a brutal one. I cut them off. Not just my ex-wife and my brother, but any family member who couldn't, or wouldn't, understand how deep the wound was. Cutting those ties was the loneliest, most painful thing I've ever done, but it was also the most necessary. It wasn't about punishing them, it was about pure survival. I had to create a space where I could actually start to heal, free from the people who broke me. The journey back to myself was not a straight line. It was jagged, painful, and damn lonely. The first real, actionable thing I did was find a therapist. Just saying the words, "My wife had an affair with my brother," out loud to someone neutral was both terrifying and freeing. Therapy became my lifeline. It was the one place where I could process it all and start to understand that their choices were about their own brokenness, not about my worth. Slowly, I started to reclaim the person I was before. I started going to the gym, not for some revenge body, but just to pour all my anger and frustration into something productive. I started journaling, filling pages with all the stuff I couldn't say out loud. I reconnected with old friends who knew me before all this, the ones who had kind of drifted away over the years. I found comfort in simple things, long hikes, learning to cook, finishing a tough book. These weren't grand gestures. They were just small, deliberate acts of taking care of myself. Of rediscovering who I was. Of course, there were setbacks. I'd have months where I felt strong, and then a song on the radio or driving past a certain restaurant would send me spiraling right back into the pain. Healing isn't a straight line, and learning to be okay with that was a huge part of it. It's a slow crawl where you measure progress in inches, not miles. But with every step back, I learned how to be more resilient. I learned to be patient with myself, and to give myself the same kindness I'd give to a friend going through the same hell. My story is my own, but I know the feelings, the betrayal, the loss, the fight to rebuild, are universal. If you're walking through your own fire right now, please know that you are not alone, and your pain is real and valid. Healing is possible. If you feel up to it, share a piece of your own story of resilience in the comments. Not for sympathy, but for solidarity. Your story might be the sign of hope that someone else desperately needs to see today. It's been 3 years. I'm not going to lie and say there isn't a scar. A betrayal this deep changes you. But the wound isn't open and bleeding anymore. The man I am today isn't the same one who stood in that silent house. I'm quieter now, but I'm also stronger. I'm more cautious with my trust, but I'm also more intentional about who I give it to. I didn't find healing in revenge. I've learned the best revenge isn't watching their lives fall apart. The best revenge is living a life so full and real that they just become an irrelevant chapter in your past. It's about choosing to be better, not bitter. People throw the word forgiveness around a lot. For me, it's not about pardoning them for what they did. It's about releasing the power they had over me. It's about accepting that it happened, not because it was okay, but because I refused to let it poison my future. In some ways, my life is smaller now, but it's also more genuine. The people I let in are few, but they're solid. I found peace, not by forgetting, but by building a new life on a foundation of self-respect and hard-won wisdom. The storm passed, and yes, it left a lot of damage. But it also cleared the land for something new to grow. And for the first time in a very long time, I'm actually looking forward to seeing what that is.